Chapter 7. Let loose every once in a while. After Evren and the others leave, Chiron walks Arya through the park to the library. The park benches are filled with students enjoying their lunch break.
So, it's the library for you?
Chiron asks as he watches a group of students play miniature touch-to-score on the wide lawn.
Yep, I need to discuss this idea with the botany AI. Maybe it's just nonsense, but we'll see.
She grins at Chiron.
I still have enough university tokens to press this AI for some hard answers.
Suddenly, her arm clip vibrates and Arya's eyes widen at the message from her supervisor.
What? Come on, Len.
Arya is clearly annoyed at what she reads.
What is it?
I have to attend some grant donation ceremony and represent the bright biology students of today. Apparently, that's me.
Well, good on you.
Chiron says.
Maybe you can reap some cash for yourself, right?
He never understood Arya's desire to become a scientist. In his world, the rewards are just not worth the grind.
They could have said something before.
Arya mutters, frowning at how the university always expects her to answer the call. That bothers her more than actually answering the call all the time. She types a short response and sighs.
There goes my AI time in the library. Oh well, I'll just swipe some good cocktails. Maybe Evren is right. I should let loose more often.
Wouldn't hurt.
Chiron quips. Arya shakes her head lovingly at him and reaches up to kiss him goodbye.
I'll never be as cool as you, baby.
Arya leaves the park and turns toward the main building, an old massive sandstone structure with a huge foyer, expansive galleries and time-worn wooden corridors. The large auditorium has been decorated for the grant ceremony. Over the crowd of attendants, she finds the panel of deans down in the center of the hall. A strangely familiar voice gives a speech about the cooperation of industry and university.
And to conclude, on behalf of my father, I am here to assure you that Winslow Industries is proud to support this fine university with our yearly contribution. At Winslow Industries, we understand that science is not everything, but everything is nothing without science.
Applause rises in the auditorium as the speaker finishes. Arya's heart pulses faster as she realizes that Raylan is here in this auditorium.
It's him. Oh my God. It's him. I can't.
Someone touches her shoulder and Arya flinches involuntarily, taking a step back.
Oh dear, I'm sorry. I didn't want to startle you.
Her Len supervisor worriedly looks at her.
Are you okay, Arya? You look a little pale around the nose.
I'm fine.
Arya says, shrugging off her supervisor's concern.
What am I supposed to do?
Nothing really.
Her supervisor shrugs, handing her a named badge with the university logo.
Sorry, this is a last-minute idea.
She smiles apologetically at Arya.
The deans thought some youthful student energy might liven things up with the industry commission, and they were specifically looking for Amma and Crow students. To have some gender equality, you know.
She again shrugs at Arya, raising her eyebrows.
So it's not just a bunch of old Len they talk to. Anyway, right now, there's a buffet in the foyer. Just mingle and be polite.
Her supervisor drifts away in the crowd, leaving Arya standing alone. In groups, the attendants leave the auditorium and walk over to the buffet. Together with other students who wear similar expressions of discomfort, she slowly follows the crowd into the grand foyer. Arya spots Raylan, who seems to be listening to a dean with a friendly, meaningless smile. She slows her walk so he cannot see her.
Doesn't anybody see that something is wrong with him?
Raylan's whole posture is the image of exhaustion just waiting for the day to end. As he turns to enter the foyer, Arya glances back in his direction. She is appalled by the haggard look on his face.
He looks even worse than the last time I saw him.
Arya worries, sincerely concerned about her old-time friend. The fragrance of bison goulash rises from the catering stands. High-top tables are spread around the buffet, and Ame servers walk among the tables offering beverages. Soon the buzz of many voices and the clanging of cutlery on plastic plates sound through the foyer. Arya keeps her distance, but still follows Raylan through the crowd as she casually sips from her champagne glass. A pale, white-haired Len approaches Raylan and quietly talks to him. His half-hearted smile freezes and shifts into an expression of refusal. With a few short words, he points at his arm clip, then at her. In response, the Len lifts her head up high and stares at Raylan for a moment. Then she smiles coldly and transitions into an exaggerated bow.
Where have I seen you before?
Something in the Len's smug demeanor seems familiar to her. She risks a longer gaze. The Len wears blue shades and a tight black suit with silver linings. After her bow to Raylan, she quickly wheels around and her hard, clacking footsteps slice through the crowd noise as she angrily strides toward the auditorium.
Cyphrin, now I remember. You're still around, Ray?
During their time as a triple with Everin, she had some run-ins with Cyphrin, who seemed to control Raylan's every waking minute. Arya always felt watched when Cyphrin was around. Raylan retreats to an empty table and puffs up his cheeks as he scrolls through the seemingly endless list of dates on his time schedule. Arya downs her champagne and picks up 2 filled glasses from the tray of a surprise server. She breathes deeply to calm herself before she walks up to Raylan.
Busy day, eh?
Arya nonchalantly remarks as she sets both glasses down on the high-top table.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, but I have to.
Raylan looks up, his face showing a hint of annoyance at this interruption.
Arya.
Raylan exclaims in surprise. His posture straightens and his frown gives way to a big smile. He takes a step forward for a hug but breaks his stride, unsure how Arya would respond. Instead, he awkwardly shuts down his display, sheepishly smiling at Arya.
Oh, come here, you crow.
Arya grins and draws him close for a long hug. The scent of his skin and hair immediately triggers memories of their past bliss with Everin. Raylan happily accepts her hug, and for a moment, he too is lost in the afterglow of their time together. Just before their hug becomes awkward, they break it up and smile at each other.
How are you?
Raylan asks.
And what are you doing at a shit show like this?
He nods over to the crowd of university scientists and industry managers who are engaged in small talk.
No offense, right?
He raises his hands with a shrug.
None taken.
Arya responds.
I've been ordered here to play the part of the young, conveniently gendered AIMA student.
Glancing at Raylan, she adds,
Yeah, it's a shit show. And from what I hear, you're one of the main attractions.
Arya takes a deep sip from her champagne. Raylan laughs at his old friend.
Damn, Emma, you're sharp.
He recalls one of Everin's stories about Arya and grins at her.
University life has been good to you, it seems. Ev told me about how you upended some science brass in one of your workshops. I loved it.
He beams at Arya with renewed vigor. His physical exhaustion after the nightly mission and the clouds of his brooding thoughts are swept away by her charming behavior.
Seems like everybody knows that story.
Arya shortly replies. Raylan senses her frustration, and he gently replies,
I'm sorry. Of course, that doesn't define you. Believe me, I know it's not easy to walk in the spotlight all day.
Well, it's not that bad as your job, I guess.
Arya's thoughts involuntarily drift back to their heated discussions about his work at Winslow Security. Years ago,
No, it's not.
Raylan replies, smiling weakly. Despite his upbeat attitude, Arya feels the underlying weight in his words.
He's still on the same treadmill after all this time. I wish I could make you see, you poor crow.
Her mind automatically lists all the arguments against his life. The same arguments that made her leave Raylan and Everin years before. She casually glances over the foyer and clears her throat.
Still, it's nice to see you again.
Arya smiles at him thoughtfully. Her next words come out before she can call them back.
Let's just talk and pretend we have no history. I mean,
Blushing, she nervously downs her champagne in one gulp.
I need another one.
She says, using her empty glass as an excuse. A small burp escapes her lips as he quickly walks away.
Well, is that loose enough for you, Ev?
She thinks defiantly as the alcohol begins to show its effect. Surveying the crowd, she spots a server with replenishments. Raylan is puzzled by Arya's open words. After they broke up, she kept her distance, and Raylan reluctantly accepted her choice. Torn between his daytime job, his nights spent with the ecos, and the void area left in his heart, he tried to let her go.
I never thought you would get caught up in memories like me.
Raylan muses, watching Arya's graceful moves as she takes 2 more glasses from a server's tray. Her flowing brown hair frames her radiating smile, leaving the server stunned, much like a deer caught in the glare of oncoming headlights.
Why didn't F ever mention anything?
Raylan wonders. After their old triple broke up, Everin stayed in contact with Raylan, sharing stories about her life. Everin has been honest with him about her love for Arya and how Arya could not accept his way of life.
The hell's with it.
Caught in the moment, he downs his own drink as he watches Arya approach with new glasses.
Looks like you've not forgotten how to party.
Raylan teases her and sets down his empty glass.
Don't tell Kyron and Everin.
Arya giggles, giving Raylan her signature smile. Warmth spreads across Raylan's cheeks.
I just turned them down for tonight.
She says,
They want to go to the Exor, but I got lectures early in the morning.
Aw, come on. You gotta let loose every once in a while. Believe me.
Raylan clinks his new glass with hers. In this moment of reprieve, he forgets about his daytime obligations, his duty for the ecos, the possible mole, and his whole contradictory life.
Stop it.
Arya moans, rolling her eyes.
Let loose. Everin pokes fun at me all the time about it. You know, I may get fed up about this letting loose nonsense and really let it rip one day.
She threatens Raylan playfully with her raised index finger.
Be my guest.
Raylan replies, raising his glass.
Although, when I look back at our party rampages, you can't top that.
He smiles as he remembers what they called club heists. Sometimes he had to calm the owner with some cash to keep the cops away.
That doesn't count.
Arya quips.
I'm not in training.
She takes another deep swig as if to start her training right now.
And you're not the Amma school girl anymore.
Raylan replies, nodding to her respectfully.
Instead, I'm looking at an intelligent, beautiful young Amma that seems to have found her scientific calling.
Really? Where?
Arya looks around the foyer before she realizes what Raylan meant.
Maybe I should ease up on the drinks.
Arya muses to herself as a comfortable buzz clouds her thinking.
Very funny.
Raylan snorts, expecting a sincere response. He is taken by surprise by her casual and carefree attitude.
I'm sorry, Ray.
Arya says,
I didn't mean that. Thanks for the compliment. Actually, I'm not sure what I found.
She thoughtfully gazes over the crowd of her academic peers.
I love basic science, finding out stuff and knowing more about nature. But we need real-world applications to fight the climate crisis. Sometimes I feel that I'm born too late to do anything.
It's never too late to save us.
Raylan speaks with commitment, but looking at Arya's puzzled expression, he realizes the double meaning in his words. He quickly continues.
I mean, to save our race, we need to reduce climate gases at all costs. We must lower emission levels, even if it hurts.
Raylan's voice sounds determined and his expression hardens. Arya looks at him disapprovingly, at odds with his point of view.
That sounds like Ika's talk.
She says,
Break down everything and let the rest handle itself. I don't believe in it.
Arya states matter-of-factly. Raylan breathes deeply to calm himself.
Don't get into the same arguments we had years ago.
He warns himself, trying to steer the conversation to safer grounds. Grounds that do not reveal his affiliation with the ecos.
Yeah, well, we have to do something.
He says neutrally, surveying the crowd.
So, what are you doing these days?
Raylan asks. But Arya is not in the mood for non-committal small talk. She senses Raylan's conflicts, and she is not willing to let her old friend go. Gazing calmly at him for a moment, Arya replies,
At the moment, I'm wondering what happened to the gentle crow I once knew.
Arya, please don't do that.
Raylan begs her, trying to keep a nonchalant face.
I have to, Ray. Don't you see that this job is killing you?
Arya reaches for Raylan's hand and asks,
What about your friends? Don't you have somebody to talk to?
Raylan is hard-pressed not to tell Arya that his friends are considered terrorists.
How could I tell you that I live two lives?
He thinks.
No one should carry that burden but me. Arya, please.
Arya is shocked to see a tear trickle down Raylan's cheek before he turns away.
I'm sorry.
Arya apologizes quietly, slowly withdrawing her hand. She gazes into her champagne glass and softly murmurs,
I feel you and your pain. I still think of you as a good friend, and I don't want you to suffer.
Wiping his cheek, Raylan turns back to face Arya, giving her a weak smile.
Amma, you really know how to get to me.
He mildly shakes his head as he takes Arya's hand.
I'm sorry too,
He says,
but I'm okay.
Seeing her doubtful expression, Raylan tries to reassure her. After a moment's thought, he tells her with a sincere tone,
Look, I feel the burden. That is true. But my life has a purpose, I feel grounded in what I do.
The delicate dance of comforting Arya, without giving away his secret life, just took a misstep. Arya presses on.
Never mind the nature of your purpose, but you don't seem to enjoy your work.
Oh, this.
Raylan gestures at the crowd with his glass.
This is not my life. This is a necessary evil.
He takes the last sip of champagne and sets his glass down.
There must be something else.
Arya is not convinced at all by Raylan's explanation.
Then what keeps you grounded?
She casually asks, gazing over to the empty catering stand. Servers are gathering dishes and glasses. The buffet nears its end. Raylan carefully chooses his next words.
Well, I met Taryn again. We hang out a lot together.
Oh, Corin's sister. How's she doing? And who's the ama in your triple?
Ho, hold your horses. One question at a time.
Raylan smiles at Arya's sudden interest in his love life.
We're in a triple with Saren, a Len who Taryn met last year.
Oh,
Arya is stunned inside, but tries to act casually.
it's good to hear that you are not alone.
She meekly adds. Of course she heard about same-gender triples. She didn't mind two-gender triples, but she never considered that Raylan may be okay with it.
Yeah, we keep ourselves busy.
Raylan muses about the failed mission last night.
How is Taryn?
Arya still senses anxiety in Raylan by the tone of his carefully prepared answers.
Taryn she's doing fine. Working with security AI and such.
Raylan surveys the slowly dissipating crowd that meanders back toward the next lecture in the auditorium. He pauses, and his voice lights up with a smile.
Listen, in a few minutes they will hunt me down and drag me away from you.
Raylan gestures dramatically.
Oh, no.
Arya playfully replies, but her uneasiness remains. She senses that Raylan's explanations are missing a very important part of his life.
How about we all get together for something really special?
He asks cheerfully.
I happen to have some fine desert worm fillets in my fridge. What do you say? Your triple? My triple? Eating desert worm fillets and talking about the old times.
Raylan cocks his head with open eyes, beaming at Arya with all the charm he can muster.
Desert worm fillets?
Arya exclaims.
How did you? Never mind. You're rich.
Arya tasted desert worm once, and it was the most delicate meat she had ever experienced.
I'll ask Kyron and Nevrin, okay?
She tells Raylan, adding.
I'd love to get together again.
She pauses.
I mean, all of us for dinner, to hang out, you know.
Arya's words fizzle out under Raylan's smile.
Damn you, Crow. You know what I mean.
Arya growls inside, feeling like an anxious teenager again, her heart pounding, breath shallow, and palms sweaty.
Crow Winslow? Crow Winslow?
A high Len voice sounds through the foyer. Raylan lets out his breath, making flapping sounds with his lips while bracing himself against the table.
They are here. Run.
Arya teases Raylan as she steps forward. She hugs him and rests her head on his shoulder, letting herself go in his embrace. Raylan also seems unwilling to let reality back into their little dream, and so they both deliberately miss the point when their hug becomes uncomfortable. Finally, the Len voice separates their embrace.
There you are.
An older Len approaches with clasped hands, slightly bowed forward. Neglecting Arya's presence, she bows to Raylan.
I know, your time is precious, but we would be honored to have you attend our next lecture on the exciting developments in the field of prehistoric gender function.
Of course, Dean.
Raylan reads her name tag.
Dean Cooper. I'd be delighted to learn more about exciting gender functions back in the day.
The Len shortly frowns at Raylan's ambiguous reply, but before she can correct him, he cuts her off.
Unfortunately, I can only attend for another half an hour. I have some other pressing matters to attend to this afternoon.
Raylan opens his arm clip and types in a quick message.
My assistant Len Cherna will sit in for me, with the rest of the commission. They will enjoy an afternoon of fascinating lectures and stimulating discussion.
The dean beams at Raylan's interest in science and bows deeply.
That will be most excellent, Crow Winslow.
Open-eyed, Arya watches the dean's reaction, stunned by her total lack of understanding subtext. She shudders inside.
Dear gods, don't turn me into one of those brainless zombies when I'm old.
Right after you.
Raylan motions the Len toward the auditorium, winking at Arya behind the Len's back. He points to his arm clip and Arya nods in response, giving him a thumbs up.
Definitely not the Ray I knew.
Arya muses as she watches him walk away.
You won't let me know about your newfound life purpose? yet you invite me to a dinner party where I'm bound to question you more about it. Something doesn't add up here.
Arya's curiosity awakens as she slowly follows the crowd into the auditorium. A dinner invitation? That sounds interesting.
Arya is a good friend. What are you talking about?